Welcome to Front Office Pros. We're here with our Week 12 trade targets. I'm Dustin filling in for Steve while he's on vacation. We've got Joe here as always. We've got 4 players that you should be targeting now in redraft that you should go get.
Hike!
Joe, why don't you give us your first player that you're targeting in Week 12?
Yeah, so as always, we look over the Draft Sharks PPR trade value chart here. And I know if Steve was here, he'd call me a homer with this one, Dustin. But I'm going to go with quarterback Bo Nix. I was actually surprised to see his value is sitting at 8 as far as his trade value goes, just because he's been pretty good the last few weeks here. And honestly, just looking at it in terms of like strength of schedule, the Broncos have one of the best. He's got, I think, the third best as far as the quarterback position for the rest of the year here. There is one caveat. They do have their bye week coming up on week 14. So if you do go ahead and trade for Bo Nix, you're going to want to make sure that you got a quarterback for week 14. But other than that, you're talking about the upcoming schedule. I mean, this week he's got the Las Vegas Raiders. Then he's got the Cleveland Browns at home. Then the bye. But then after that, you got the Colts, Chargers, and then the Cincinnati Bengals. And most people don't play week 18, kind of avoid the iffy matchup against the Chiefs. But the last time that the Broncos did play the Chiefs, he had actually performed pretty well on the road in Arrowhead. So in terms of, some other quarterbacks that I'd rather have Bo Nix over, I would take Bo Nix over, likes of Jared Goff, CJ Stroud at this point, and even a guy like Geno Smith.
Yeah, I was surprised to see Bo Nix at an 8 on the value of Draft Sharks. When you're talking Geno Smith's a 14, even Jordan Love's a 19 with Jordan Love with the interceptions he had. What's interesting with Bo Nix is he does have rushing upside. We've seen it happen, but we've seen it not happen last week. He only had 2 rushes for 5 yards, but 2 weeks before that, it was 6 for 36. I mean, he's had 10 for 75. He's had 6, 8, 9, 5. I mean, he's had some good rushing games. So he's not your Lamar Jackson. He's not Kyler Murray, but he does have enough giddy up and go where he can get you some. Doesn't have a ton of interceptions, only 6 on the year, which I think is important if you play in a point where you get negative points for interception. That's why I don't love Jordan Love, because he's just throwing interceptions left and right, it seems.
Right.
So I think you're right. It's a good value compared to some of the people around him. If you could trade I don't even know if that's according to the value chart, you can trade Geno Smith plus to get Bo Nix. I'm not sure anybody's making that trade.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it is going to be tough. I mean, coming off of that brilliant game that he had against the Falcons, was able to only throw 5 incompletions, over 300 yards and 4 touchdowns, which is, really good for a rookie quarterback. But, in terms of his rushing upside too, like he's actually been rushing less lately, which for fantasy, of course, we'd want him to run more. But, it's been kind of nice for actual NFL to see him not relying on his legs so much, and you really see his passing skills come along here.
But when you throw for 4 touchdowns, I don't need you to run. If you're throwing 300 yards and 4 touchdowns, I don't need you to run at all. Like I'll take those points. It's a 30-point game for most leagues. Like that's a ton. That's huge. My first trade target is going to be an interesting one. I think you're interested in is going to be running back Rico Dowdle of the Dallas Cowboys. He's currently sitting on the Draft Sharks at 17 points. Behind guys or right around guys like Jalen Warren, Jonathan Brooks, who we haven't seen anything from. Jalen Warren's the clear backup. And then he's behind guys like Travis Etienne, Javonte Williams, Rashad White. And I'm just like, and J.K. Dobbins. Like, J.K. Dobbins is at 23. When you look at total opportunities over the past 3 games for Dowdle, 18, then 15, then 15. If you look at someone like Dobbins, who's a good, 6 points ahead of him, 16, 17, 12 between rushing and passing work. So he's right there. Listen, the Cowboys suck. They just do. So I get you can be a little cautious with Rico Dowdle because they might not run the ball. We saw it on Monday night. They just kind of stopped running the ball the fourth quarter because they were behind. That's going to happen because it's Cooper Rush. Is it always going to be Cooper Rush? Who knows? Maybe Trey Lance gets a shot. I don't know. Trey Lance is kind of washed at this point, even though he's never played. He's just a bust. But the Cowboys want to run the ball. So when it's in a positive or neutral game script, they're going to run the ball. And Zeke Elliott looks old and washed, so it's just going to be Rico Dowdle. I like his volume comparative to his value. When you're looking at guys, when he's right at 1 point above Jalen Warren, who's at 12, 16, 13, he's getting a few more carries and he's 1 point above him. He should be, I think, in that 20, 21 range in terms of value. So I think he's a sneaky buy low. get some good usage. I think it's just a volume play. I don't expect Rico Dowdle to go out there and rush 15 times for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns, but you give a guy 15 carries, even if he's getting 3 yards per carry, he's going to be all right. He's just going to be okay for your fantasy. He's not a high-end running back 1, but he's a good running back 2, and I think he's going at low running back 2 prices right now.
Yeah, well, especially coming off of that disappointing game Monday night against the Texans. So obviously that doesn't scare you off, because that was what I was interested in hearing your argument. But based on his value, I think it does make sense. Just I've got Rico Dowdle in a couple leagues, and the Monday night performance, and just seeing like Deuce Vaughn get on the field late, and then how much they were using Elliott, and just the fact that Dowdle was utilized early, but then it seems like they made it a point to go away from him, which kind of scared me a little bit. But to your point, I think you can that owner is probably going to be scared as well, and you can really buy low on them.
Yeah, you can buy that. I think you can get him for under that 17 value. I think you can get him at a value of 10 to 12, and I think he probably is worth 20. Yeah, he had a disappointing. He was only 2.8 yards per carry, but he still had 10 carries and 5 targets. Now, granted, they're Cooper Rush targets, so they're not like stellar. Yeah. But if he gets back to his he's averaging 4.32 yards per carry on the season. If he gets back to that again, 15 carries at 4 yards, that's 60 yards right there. Like, that's pretty good. Like, 60 yards is 6 points. That's a flex play for you easily. And then you throw in a couple receptions. So if you're in a PPR league and he gets you 6 points, 60 yards rushing and catches 2 balls for 20 yards, you're looking at almost 9 points. 10 points. That's pretty good for a flex play low-end running back too.
And to your point, he's got some good matchups in terms of the Cowboys backfield coming up here. I mean, this week at Washington, then the Giants, then the Bengals at Carolina. Week 16, Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Hey, yep.
And week 17 is a tough matchup for your championship, but against the Philadelphia Eagles. But at this point, you're not relying on Rico Dowdle to win your championship. So hopefully he at least improves your chances of making the playoffs here at this point.
Yeah, when you're talking about, he's currently RB 32 on the year and hasn't scored a rushing touchdown. He has 3 passing reception touchdowns. So if he gets in the end zone, he's clearly going to have a 15-point game. So I really like that for the value.
Are you enjoying this episode so far? Well, if you are, subscribe to our YouTube channel, smash that like button, and hit the notification bell for upcoming videos. We do videos throughout the year, so you're not going to want to miss what we have in store.
Joe, who is your second trade target for Week 12?
Yeah, my second trade target, I'm going to go with rookie wide receiver Ladd McConkey, and his current value is sitting at 32 on the Draft Sharks trade value chart here. And this is just I just like Chargers passing volumes been increasing. Ladd McConkey is coming off of a good game against the Bengals, which could hurt you in terms of trying to trade for him. But I really like his upcoming schedule this week against the Baltimore Ravens. Then the Atlanta Falcons saw what the Broncos offense was able to do to their defense. Then at the Chiefs, which is ranked, as a tough defense to go up against. But we've seen the Broncos have some success. The Bills were able to have some passing success as well on them without a full complement of receiving options. So I don't know if that's as bad as it may appear. And then week 15, a real juicy matchup against the Buccaneers to start your playoff week. Following week, tough matchup against the Broncos. But then if you happen to make it to your championship, you get the New England Patriots. And you saw what Matt Stafford was able to do with Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp. They had themselves a day this past Sunday. So a nice matchup for your championship week if you happen to make it. And I like where he's sitting, at the 32 spot. Some guys around him. You're looking at, Josh Downs, Cedric Tillman, Devonta Smith, Jerry Jeudy, even guys like Jaden Reed and Calvin Ridley, Devontae Adams, Zay Flowers. I mean, those are some of the options there. And I really like McConkey's upside. And it seems like the Chargers really want to utilize Herbert. And you see the passing volume going up. His targets are increasing. And I think he continues to build off this strong game against the Bengals.
Yeah, I don't dislike Ladd McConkey. I don't love him at 32, especially when you look at the guys around him. Cortland Sutton at 30. I think the guys below him. I think they're right. There's some guys. I think I'd rather have him than Josh Downs and Cedric Tillman.
Yeah.
Probably maybe Jerry Jeudy. Even Jaden Reed, Calvin Ridley's kind of streaky. Zay Flowers especially. I think those guys are up. I don't know if Ladd McConkey to me might be at his cap. I think I'd rather have Darnell Mooney at 28 or a Brian Thomas at 28. Even a healthy Jameson Williams at 28, a healthy Amari Cooper at 28. Khalil Shakir at 26. So maybe those guys are just valued low for me. I agree with
Yeah.
you. I think the Chargers are clicking right now. Their offense is huge. I mean, you saw 9 targets, caught 6 for 123 this past week. I just don't know if he gets close to that. He's currently wide receiver 18 on the year, which I was surprised of. He has 4 touchdowns. Now, he had 2 in one game and he had 111 yards. He's definitely there. I think Quentin Johnson is the more boom or bust guy. This guy, Ladd McConkey, has been kind of the steady Eddie on that team. I think he's only had under 50 yards, 3 or 4 times this year. I think it's 4. Maybe he's been 44, 46. He had a couple rough games to start off the season, but he's a rookie. If the offense can continue to click and hum the way it's going, I do like Ladd McConkey. I don't know if you can get a ton of value out of him, but I have no problem getting him. I just don't know if you're going to get like a steal on him if you're trading for him.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fair point. I mean, like I said, you're probably not going to get a steal on him, especially coming off of that game against the Bengals. And you mentioned this is kind of more of a PPR option, hoping that he gets the volume and the yardage, as he's not a big touchdown guy.
Yeah, if he can get, if he's getting 8, 9 targets and can catch, 6, 7 of them every game, I think that's huge. The volume is going to be great for him, and especially in a PPR league. My last guy is another Chargers player, and that is tight end Will Disley. We talked about this on our waiver wire show. I'm actively looking to get Will Disley in a couple leagues for this playoff stretch. I love his matchups coming up. He has the rest of the season: Baltimore, Atlanta, KC, Tampa Bay, Denver, New England, Las Vegas in week 18. The toughest teams on there are Denver, New England, who are currently 14th in points to the tight end. Baltimore's 23rd, Atlanta's 24th, KC's 29, Tampa Bay is 28, Denver and New England are 14. If you play week 18, Las Vegas is 31st. So just some really solid matchups. So not only are you getting this high-powered offense that we just talked about with McConkey, with his great passing attack, Justin Herbert looks like old Justin Herbert. That team looks energized. They're making this push for the playoffs. You're getting great matchups as well. And for me, tight ends, it comes down to matchups and scheme. And that scheme is gearing up towards them. We've seen they don't really have a true one between Quentin Johnson, Ladd McConkey. Will Disley's kind of in the mix. Last 3 weeks, it was 3 targets, then 6, then 6. Before that, it was 7, 11. Before the bye, he wasn't doing so great, but I think he's really come on. Last week, he had 6 targets, 4 receptions, 80 yards, and a touchdown. I think in the tight end landscape for fantasy, where you just don't know, like the Travis Kelce's have been hit or miss. Mark Andrews has been hit then miss. It was missed then hit then miss. I mean, Dalton Kincaid has always been Dalton Kincaid, which is just meh. That's the way he's always been and always will be, as long as Dawson Knox there. And I'll continue to say that forever, as long as people give me an opportunity to say it. Don't pick up Dalton Kincaid. He's not worth it. Kyle Pitts has been kind of hit or miss. Kittle's been good. Some of these big guys have not been good. If I'm looking for a guy who's steady, I think Will Disley is that. And the matchups for the rest of the season really make him a buy for me. I just don't think you can find a better tight end matchups for the rest of the season.
Yeah, no, looking at that strength of schedule, man, I agree with you. I think he's gonna, he's a guy that you could target and really help you on that playoff push. And you mentioned just starting off the year with slow in terms of targets. I think it's just how we've seen this Chargers offense evolve early on. They wanted to just run the ball. It was low passing volume, but then after the bye in these last few weeks, you just continue to see the passing volume go up, and Herbert's looking good. So like you mentioned, I mean, this Chargers offense is really gaining some steam, and Disley's definitely going to be a big part of it.
Yeah, and he's currently at 7 on the Draft Sharks trade value, so he is tied with Hunter Henry and Zach Ertz. He's 1 ahead of Tucker Kraft, who's been injured, but he's behind Jonnu Smith, Mark Andrews, Kincaid at 10, which is all draft hype and people don't understand. Sam Laporta, who's been hit or miss. Kyle Pitts has been hit, who I saw post today, like, is Kyle Pitts droppable? And that's a question. You're talking about Taysom Hill at 11. Evan Ingram, who's been good. Njoku's at 34. I mean, you're talking guys, these big name guys are worth so much more. So you could theoretically take a Kyle Pitts at 13 and get Will Disley plus a player and make Alec Ben, and you're going to get more points out of Diz than I think you'll get out of Kyle Pitts the rest of the year. So interesting value there. He's just low. I mean, he's above guys like Jake Ferguson and Mike Gesicki, who have been kind of real streaky. Tavion Sanders at 3. I thought about throwing him in there this week, but I just think the matchups for me really stand out for Will Disley. And at that value of 7, you can definitely get him cheap, and I think you're going to produce rest of the season, I think he's going to be a top, maybe even a top 5 tight end the rest of the season.
Yeah, I mean, looking at his value, it doesn't quite make sense. I think at least he should be up at the 9 mark with guys like Jonnu Smith and Mark Andrews at this point. if not higher, but I think at least there. I mean, Ertz really hasn't been that much. Hunter Henry, I mean, people are saying, where's Hunter Henry been? And it's, you think Hunter Henry's going to get the catch, and then all of a sudden it's Austin Hooper.
Yeah.
So just kind of definitely a low mark, and I think this is the time to go ahead and buy him.
And I think Will Disley should be in, I think, that 10-11 range. And I think that's part of these value charts is they are reactionary, not proactive. They're going, hey, this is what he's
Right.
at, based on what people aren't forecasting his value rest of the season. But I do think, Ray, you can get him now at a 7. I think 2-3 weeks from now he's going to be worth 11, 12, somewhere in that range. So I do think it is great value. So this has been your Week 12 Trade Targets, players that we think you should go get now. We gave you 4 names. This has been Front Office Pros. It's been a privilege filling in for Steve while he's gone. Joe, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next time.